Hi, welcome to Foursquare Microfarm. Today I am working on one of those one card wonder things. Just I saw something somewhere and it kind of struck my fancy. Um, a lot of them are on 12 by 12 pattern paper. I don't have any 12 by 12 pattern paper. I only have 8.5 and 11 by pattern paper, and so I'm going to go ahead and make it with that. Now, normally I make a video. I make a couple different videos, then I blend them together to a complete video. But I figured while I'm here working on this, I'll go ahead and give it a whirl. So hopefully it'll work. We'll see how this goes. And also, I got a Fiskars shortcut maybe about 2 weeks ago. My mother bought it for me. And I had it, got it on a Thursday, or actually on a Friday. Took it home, used it Monday, Tuesday. By Wednesday, it was ripping the paper. So I had to send it back, and I'm waiting for the new paper cutter to arrive. So in the meantime, I don't even actually have a paper cutter. So I'm going to use my ceramic paper blade as soon as I find that, and that's going to be my paper cutter. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, for the envelope, here's the measurements I worked out. We'll go ahead and get that started. So I'm starting from the right to the left, and I'm going to score at a half. This is the old-fashioned way they used to do it. Score at a half. Then I'm going to score at 1. And this is my rotary mat for cutting material. Really came in handy in a pinch. Then I'm going to score again over here at 8. Oh, I'll score again at 7.5. Then I'll score at 8. 7.5 and scoring at 8. And then I'm going to turn the paper to the 8.5 by 11 side. And I have my template here. And I'm going to score at 3. Nice good score there. I'm going to score at 3.5. Then I'm going to score again at 8. That's straight on. And then at 8.5. The paper cutter is due to arrive sometime between Tuesday and Friday of this week, and that will be nice to have. Okay, so we've got this. This is going to be the box. I'm going to go ahead and fold this up. It just goes to show you, I mean, it's nice to have the fancy stuff, but you don't always need the fancy stuff. Okay, so there we go. We have our box. I'll fold it up. Now, going to cut the piece top. And this is the piece where it's the 8.5, maybe 8.5 cut. Cut into that, both sides. And cut into the bottom. Cut that all the way across 2 score lines. I'm going to go ahead and check how my fold fits. That's going to be nice. Go ahead and cut my second flap here. Okay, cut all the way into. There we go. Oh, that's going to be nice. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove this outside piece. Sorry about that, so you can see. Good. That looks great. Okay, that's our box. I'm going to go ahead and secure this box with some tape. Okay, so I worked out finally where to cut it. I had to really think about it. Okay, the bottle measurement was 3.5. Okay, so everything on there from the 3.5 up, that first ½ inch crease on both sides needs to be cut from the 3.5 all the way up to the top. And on the other side, from the 8.5 over here needs to be cut from the 3.5 all the way up. So on this piece right here, it's cut here, and this is the inch score over here after the ½ inch score was cut off here. And at the very top of the lid, you're cutting off that ½ inch and that inch score, and that 8 and 8.5 score over on this side. Okay, and then I stuck the box together, and that works out pretty nicely. It folds over pretty well. And I'm going to put a belly band around it. Now, under normal circumstances, I would use a heavier cardstock. This is a 65-pound cardstock, which is pretty much the typical stuff. I, of course, use something heavier, but at the moment, I didn't have anything heavier, and so this is pretty much what I used. So, now I'll get on to the paper. I'm going to take my paper, and I am just going to, first of all, I got to trim off the extra, because this paper has got the dotted line on it from coming out the pad, and it's a little bit bigger than the 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off that extra piece. There's a little dotted line on it, so I know how to travel here. The piece. And then I'll have an 8.5 piece of paper. And after watching May May, now I know that you don't throw away these scraps, because I saw her make this coolest card from all these little extra scraps. I'm like, whoa. So even though I cut off this piece, I can take this piece and use it to make a scrap card, which is very cool. Now, I'm going to go ahead and change the lighting. I think I need some better lighting here. I'm going to turn it. Sorry, Pepper. Oh, there we go. Okay, so much better lighting. Now, here we go. I'm going to start, and I'm just winging it here. I'm taking while we. It's 8.5 by 11. I'm going to start by. Actually, let me turn it around. I'm going to start by cutting it in half at the 5.5 mark. And there's a couple different ways I saw this done, but this is the way I'm going to do this today. And I'll tell you how many cards I actually got out of this experience. So, cutting at the 5.5. And it'll be really neat when my paper cutter comes in. But like I said, just in case you're starting out, you don't have a big fancy paper cutter, you can do it just like this. And this is a ceramic box cutter I got at Walmart. That's a little too bright, but that's okay. So, I'll cut that in half. Then I'm going to cut this again at 4.25. Okay, so, and then go ahead and cut the other one. So that we'll have 4 5.5 by 4.25 squares. Okay. Okay, now the first 5.5 by 4.25, I want to cut this guy on the diagonal. So I'm going to line this up, and I'm just going to cut it on the diagonal. Now we have a little too much light. Let me fix that real quick. Maybe a little better. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to cut that on the diagonal. Okay. 2 pieces for me, and I just want to get a feel for what it's going to look like. Okay. And there goes Pepper, right on cue. That's what it's going to look like on a card. I just really wanted some diagonal pieces. Okay, now, that's 2 cards. That's a diagonal. Now I'm going to take this piece on the 5.5, and I am going to cut it 3 times. Let's see. Yep, I'm going to cut it at 1.5. At 3. Got a little end piece there. And let's see what I have left. I'm going to cut it at 1.25. And that gave me 2 pieces that are 3, and then 2 pieces that are 1.25. Okay. Then I'm going to take this next piece here, I'm going to cut that in half. Okay. 2.25, 2 3/4, I should say. I'm going to cut that at 2 3/4. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it to the 4.25 end. Okay. And I'd say cut 2 1/8. Now I'm really splitting hairs now. 2 1/8, 2 1/8, 2 1/8, 2 1/8. Okay. Ooh, now we have one last piece. I don't know what I want to do with this piece. Let me see. The strips I made here were 1.25 inches. So maybe I'll cut these up into 1/2 inch strips. That seems like a good idea. I'm going to move these guys out of the way so I can see my board really well. Let's go ahead and cut this up into 1/2 inch strips. I have to make sure while I'm doing this, let's say that you don't have a paper cutter, like I don't have at the very moment, and you're cutting these up with your craft knife on a board like I'm doing now. One thing I have to suggest to you is if you have a nice big mat like this, is to start the cut well above the paper and end the cut past the paper. Because what happens is if you don't start high up like I'm doing here, I don't know if you can see that because my arm is in the way, but if you don't start cutting above the paper, you'll rip the seam down here, and if you don't follow all the way through, you'll wind up with a little jagged edge there. So I'm taking it an inch above, bringing it down, and taking it an inch past to keep from having the little edges on the ends. And if I don't take it past, I get that little, it catches a little, and I'm left with that little piece on the end. I don't want that. I go back and snip all those off, but still, better not to have them. Wanted to introduce you all to Boomer, who is Pepper's father, but he is not the least bit interested in my videos, and so he just kind of gets up and leaves out the room. Oh, I got stuck on the mat. He is not the least bit interested at all. And you know what? These guys are great. They don't interfere with the spinning wheel for the most part, or the loom, or anything like that. I've heard stories of people's cats and dogs getting into the middle stuff, but they don't. Occasionally they want my attention. They'd rather, have my attention instead of me crafting. So I have to stop what I'm doing. But for the most part, they don't get into my crafts like that. They don't bother my things. Okay, here we go. Last cut, 5.5. This one's going to be hard. I want to keep steady. Okay, so now all the little pieces are ready. So I cut this one every 1/2 inch, and there's some crazy paper on the back. You can see that. Cut these two in half. I cut these ones in quarters. And I cut this one into, these were 1.5, and these were 1 1/8. Okay, so there we go. Now, the paper I'm going to use, I'm using a basic white cardstock, 65 pound, and these are all going to be 4 1/4 by 5.5 size note cards. So I'm going to turn them. Okay, they're going to wind up 4 1/4 by 5.5. So I'm going to turn them to the 5.5 side, or I should say the 11 side, and I'm going to cut them at 5.5. And then they get scored at 4 1/4. Okay. Put that off to the side. Sorry about that. 4 1/4. And since this one is in my hand, I will go ahead and score it at 4 1/4. And then I'll go ahead and cut it at 5 1/2. And that's scored. Turn that and cut. That's 5 1/2. Okay, now I don't know yet, since I'm doing this way, how many note cards I'm going to get. So I am going to turn off the video. I'm going to start some layouts, and then I'll be able to tell you when I get back to the video how many layouts, how many note cards this is going to make. Okay. Okay, this is what I wound up with. I wound up with 10 cards and 3 extra scraps, and it was kind of odd because next time I'll be more careful when I cut up the little strips. When I cut them up and kind of brush them to the side, I couldn't quite figure out how they lined up again, and I'm kind of a little obsessive when it comes to patterns. I don't like patterns. A lot of patterns that don't match. So when I couldn't put them back together in a neat little way, I just kind of got rid of these 3. So I probably could have won it with 11 cards or maybe even 12 cards. But I kind of tossed those to the wayside. And so I'll just give you a little peek of what each card kind of looks like. You can't really see the shiny on this side because of the lighting. Let me see if I can turn it. There you go. And I'm still decorating them, but here's the 10 different layouts. And also, what I didn't do is I cut all the pieces of paper by the 4 1/2 side, and so I didn't leave myself anything that was long enough lengthwise. So what I'll probably do is substitute that the strips and turn them so that they're cut by the 5 1/2, because the 4 1/2 of course was long enough for the 2 sides, and I have 2 cards like that. They were 4 1/2 was long enough for 2 sides. I put them on opposite sides, but they weren't long enough to run the entire length of the 5 1/2 side. So what I wound up for the 5 1/2 side is just kind of decorating like this. And these 3 across match. That's just one kind of random. Probably belong to those 2 over there. Alright, so, and then these ones match, and they kind of, I think they called it a Venetian blind. So it kind of has that Venetian blind look. Maybe that's not real bad. Kind of in the middle. That's okay. I really liked the squares, triangles, or squares, rectangles. I had them at one point so that they were stacked 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought that was really neat. So the next pass around, I will do a 1, 2, 3, 4 with those. And of course, my diagonals, which I thought were really cool. So that's how that turned out, with 10 cards in total. And I could see how this 1 card wonder stuff could get very, very interesting. Just turning the cards in different orientations. So on the next time, I'll get a little more decorative. I'll use a different color for you to see. And I think too, well, I'm going to use the other camera, because right now I'm using the web camera, and I just don't like the clarity of picture that it gets. It's really nice because it's stationary, and it's I'm not controlling with my hands. I don't have to stop and pause in order to take the video, but it's not as sharp a picture as the glasses would be, or even my digital camera or the camera phone. So we'll see about that. All right. Well, thanks a lot. Have a great day.